Particularly offensive that some cities are disrespecting and even defunding our law enforcement agencies in communities across the state.
Governor Greg Abbott is once again taking aim at cities looking to defund their police departments. Cities like Austin and now Dallas, whose councils both voted to reallocate police funds.
Cities must prioritize public safety.
During a press conference Thursday where the governor and other state leaders signed the Back the Blue pledge, Abbott released details on another proposed legislation, saying cities that defund their police departments will forever lose their annexing powers, meaning the city will no longer be able to expand its boundaries.
Any areas and any residents that have ever been annexed by that city in the past will have the power to vote to disannex them from the city.
This comes a month after the governor announced the first proposal, which was to freeze property tax revenue.
Combined together, all of these proposals will make it basically financially impossible to defund law enforcement, and it should leave Austin with no choice but to restore the cuts that they've already made to law enforcement.
Austin Mayor Steve Adler wrote this statement in response to the governor. To be clear, Austin city leaders have neither defunded the police department nor support doing so. I'm unaware of any elected official who believes differently. The governor's pledge is political theater intended to scare and distract us from important public safety conversations about opening our children's schools and saving lives during the pandemic, or whether police should be mental health first responders and social workers. Austin is the safest big city in Texas and among the few safest in the country. We'll continue to make an already safe city even safer.
And if the 911 operators were aware that children were alive in that classroom, why weren't officers notified of that? And if that's the case, why didn't they take action? That's the question. And again, I'll go back to the answer for right now, is that it was considered, okay, the decision was made on the scene. I wasn't there, but at the same point in time, you know, a decision was made that this was a barricaded situation. There was time to retrieve the keys and wait for a tactical team with the equipment to go ahead and breach the door and take on the subject at that point.
If you listen closely, you'll notice that was
information we have. There were children in that classroom that were at risk. For the benefit of hindsight, where I'm sitting now, of course it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision. Period. There's no excuse for that.
Wrong decision, no excuse, and we've heard from other experts that go through why this violates what is current policy for confronting active shooters. I will get to that. But we always want to give you the facts as we have them. You can interpret them how you see. Officers getting inside 30 minutes later, followed by those 911 calls I mentioned from inside the classroom, another 15 minutes until that tactical team finally arrived. Another call detailing that at least 8 kids were allegedly still alive inside. Please to send the police. 12:47 p.m. is when you get that call that's been noted here from the updated timeline. This is some of what Governor Abbott referred to that was not known or shared accurately earlier, although it was on 911 logs. Reading from the yellow there, 12:47, please, quote, send the police now. It was not until about 50 minutes of police waiting outside, though, that they entered and killed the shooter. This police inaction means that scenes like this, newly released,
to freeze property tax revenue for cities that defund the police. Political anchor Ashley Godot joining us live with more on this. Ashley, the governor made it very clear this is in reaction to Austin City Council's newly approved budget.
That's right, it is, Brian. Last week, the council voted to decrease the amount of money the city manager had slated for APD by about $150 million. Governor Abbott said then lawmakers will take action in the next legislative session, and now we're getting a glimpse of what that action could look like. Governor Abbott, together with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Speaker of the House Dennis Bonnen, and several state lawmakers held a news conference in Fort Worth this afternoon. They announced a proposal to freeze property tax revenue for any Texas city that decreases funding to its police department. This means cities wouldn't be able to collect a greater amount of money in property taxes than what is currently collected if cuts are made to police budgets.
And that does mean, yes, in the future, if they do face tough economic times, it means they will have no ability to increase that property tax revenue. What that does, Bud, is it ensures those cities know if they do make the decision to defund law enforcement, they are constricting their ability to ever be able to meet the other needs they have. Because the fact of the matter is, if we have lawlessness in our cities caused by local decision-making policies that reduce law enforcement officers, it's going to cause chaos throughout the entire community.
$20 to
Now again, this is all stimulus and fund social services. A few hours after the governor's announcement, Mayor Steve Adler held his own news conference accusing the governor of stoking fear and spreading misinformation. And Adler is pushing back against saying $150 million was cut.
There were only $20 million that were cut. $20 million for unfilled positions, for overtime, and for 3 cadet classes that were postponed. There were no other cuts. The forensic lab will continue, 911, 311 will continue. The internal affairs will continue. None of these things were cut.
The mayor also pointing out the city manager originally presented a $434 million budget for APD. Now the council decided to take $21 million of that. Would have gone toward 3 cadet classes, overtime, and filling.
I mean, it's terrible. I can't even imagine what his family's going through.
Mickey Guerro's yard backs up to the neighborhood park where Fort Worth police shot and killed a man Tuesday just before 1.
He walks.
Ended here at Rosedale and Evans. The suspects in a stolen car were eventually captured and arrested. But an SUV, a police SUV in that chase, hit 2 other vehicles not involved in the chase. And one of those drivers, an innocent driver, is dead. In still images provided to WFAA, a police SUV has crashed at the center median into a pickup truck. But it also hit a Cadillac SUV that ended up on the curb in front of Mount Zion Baptist Church, ejecting that driver from the vehicle. Today, his family identified that driver as 58-year-old Andre Craig.
4 days since Fort Worth police shot and killed 30-year-old Bronche Minter and 21-year-old Billy Smith just before 12:30 a.m. on July 5th.
They just came in our yard and just started blatantly shooting.
Fort Worth Police Chief Neil Noakes said the officer and arson investigator who killed the 2 men were assigned to illegal fireworks calls that night and weren't responding to Ross and 32nd Street where the shooting happened. Smith's family said the annual block party had
moment that divided Fort Worth. Today, the department released body camera video from the officers who shot and killed the suspect on Sunday. I'm Cynthia Izaguirre. Chris is off. The video is disturbing. Here's Lauren Zakalik with reaction from the community.
It has been a tense week in the city of Fort Worth after Sunday's police-involved shooting that left 20-year-old Jaquavian Slayton dead. People in the southeast neighborhood where it happened have been demanding to see body camera video.
We hope today's information will provide answers and help heal.
In January, Fort Worth police received a complaint alleging Sergeant Roderick Martin, an officer since 2006, destroyed evidence while working off duty. Fort Worth PD have not released details about what evidence he may have destroyed.
New details about Monday's shooting in Fort Worth. Officers shot and killed a man who fired a gun inside a Quick Trip store. Investigators say Joe Williams was walking around the store holding a gun and told a clerk to call 911. When police arrived just after midnight, Williams fired off some shots inside the building, and then he walked out the front door shooting. Multiple officers returned fire until Williams collapsed. Paramedics rushed him to a hospital where he died from it.
Shows what happened when an officer fired her weapon into a suspect's car. That decision cost Fort Worth officer Lena Mino her job. Jennifer Lindgren's live at police headquarters this morning with the newly released video and reaction from a woman who witnessed the suspect's arrest. Jen.
Karen, last month, Fort Worth's police chief decided to fire Officer Lena Mino, saying her decision to use her gun that day was a misuse of deadly force because the driver she pulled over, they say, did not actually pose a threat to her. This new dash cam video. You can hear a single gunshot ring out. Back in April in Northeast Fort Worth, probationary officer Lena Mino pulled over a driver in a traffic stop.
Fort Worth Police Department fired an officer after an investigation revealed he lied about using excessive force against an arrested person. We want to warn you, the video is hard to watch. According to Fort Worth Police, Mitchell Miller arrested someone for public intoxication in January. This is that video where police released of that incident while they were walking toward the jail entrance. The arrested person turned toward Miller, and Miller reacted by shoving him to the ground, as you just saw there. The victim lost contact.
Released body cam video of a shooting involving a police officer. You see it here. This happened Sunday. That clip showing an officer yell at a man to drop a gun before beginning to shoot. Slowed down, police say the video shows that the person was holding a gun. Police say the officer fired 6 times and the suspect fired once.
In Texas after another deadly police shooting. This weekend, a white police officer shot and killed a black woman inside her own home in Fort Worth. It comes less than 2 weeks after former Dallas police officer Amber Geiger was sentenced to 10 years in prison for killing her unarmed black neighbor. According to recent data compiled by the Washington Post, there have been 75 deadly police shootings in Texas this year. Jonathan Vigliotti now on the events that led to this latest shooting.
Body cam footage released by Fort Worth police show the officer arriving at the house early Saturday morning and looking inside an open front door. He then canvasses the property, aiming both his flashlight and gun at the windows. When he sees someone standing inside, the officer shouts, then fires his weapon.
Put your hands up! Show me your hands!
A single gunshot. 28-year-old Tatiana Jefferson, who was taking care of her sick mother's home, was pronounced dead at the scene. Police were conducting a welfare check, initially called to the home by a neighbor who was worried after seeing the door left open.
And informed them that my neighbor was an elderly, sickly lady, and I was concerned for her health.
But when police arrived, James Smith says they did not use lights or sirens.
3 or 4 tactical officers come from around the corner, seemed like. In less than a minute, I heard a gunshot.
Fort Worth police released a statement saying the officer used his weapon after perceiving a threat.
The officer did not announce that he was a police officer prior to shooting. What the officer observed and why he did not announce police will be addressed as the investigation continues.
Family attorney Lee Merritt said the real threat came from police.
That's murder.
And community members are calling for more answers.
I feel guilty because had I not called the Fort Worth Police Department, my neighbor would still be alive today.
Fort
Hello, I am Fort Worth Police Assistant Chief Robert Aldridge.
Yes, on the 15, he does have the weapon on him, be advised. Hey, get your hands out of your pockets! I'll shoot you, bro! Put your gun down!
After he was struck by gunfire, the suspect threw his handgun. Officers immediately moved in to take the suspect into custody and provide him with medical aid. He was then transported to the local hospital and is in stable condition. As you can see, the suspect was given multiple.
Hello, I'm Neil Noakes, Chief of Police for the Fort Worth Police Department.
Separate incidents last week. Officer Daryl Coker was indicted back in September for breach of computer security. 9-year veteran Detective Brian LaFleur was actually indicted last month for forcing his way into a home with a gun while off duty. And Officer Derek Malley was fired after an investigation into domestic violence charges.
On last week's deadly police shooting where officers killed a man armed with a machete-style knife. Officers responded to the home near McCart Avenue and Alta Mesa Boulevard after a 911 call from the man's mother saying he needed mental help. When officers arrived, they found 37-year-old Robert Bradshaw holding the knife. They told him to drop it. He wouldn't do it. One officer considered using a taser, but then they say he charged at them. Both officers fired.
Knife down! Don't come in here. Hey, we got one at gunpoint. Don't come in here. Put the knife down! Right now! No. Get your taser. Get your taser out. No.
Today, officers also released doorbell video from earlier that same evening. They say Bradshaw had pushed a woman from his car. Then, as she was running away, he sped up and struck her. Police say the woman was seriously injured. Bradshaw fled that.
Officer from Fort Worth. The department's fugitive unit was searching for a Raimundo Duran III who had an outstanding warrant for domestic violence.
They were working alongside the U.S. Marshals, and according to Fort Worth police, when officers approached Duran, he left in a vehicle, refused to stop, and rammed a law enforcement vehicle.
Scoop Jefferson spoke with the family's attorney about Duran's shooting.
We're searching for Duran, who had an active domestic violence felony warrant.
He's got a young son, less than a year old. And, again, this is a very tragic situation.
Non-life-threatening gunshot wound to the leg. The homeowner believes Duran left after he saw unmarked police cars nearby. He shared this post on Facebook about the shooting. He wrote, "The U.S. Marshal's Office tried to execute a warrant for the workers that were working on my house. As Texas Rangers investigate."
The former Fort Worth police officer accused of shooting and killing a black woman in her own home in 2019, now standing trial.
This is not a self-defense case. This is murder.
As soon as Aaron enters the backyard, he sees a silhouette in the window. Aaron sees that silhouette in the window, and that silhouette has a firearm.
It was early October when Aaron Dean was called to 28-year-old Atat's house after a neighbor reported to the non-emergency line that her doors were open.
It's not normal for them to have the doors open this time of night.
Inside, then 8-year-old Zion Carr, who says he was playing video games with his Aunt Tay when she heard a noise and got her gun to investigate.
It pointed up, she just kept it next to her, like on her side.
The defense pushing the now 11-year-old on that key testimony.
When we talked before, you said that you did kind of pull the gun up a little bit. Do you remember that?
Zion saying his aunt had cracked open the door after they had cooked burgers. This body cam footage showing Dean approaching the back of the home, never identifying himself before shooting Jefferson through her window. Zion saw her fall to the ground.
I see my auntie crying, so I thought it had to be something serious.
The defense arguing the officers were treating the situation like a potential robbery in progress. Dean has pleaded not guilty.
Noakes, the responding officer across the street, talked to Ramos for more than 20 minutes. Noakes says that their crisis intervention team was called to the scene but did not arrive before Ramos fired 3 shots at officers. 3 officers returned fire.
We can figure this out. It's going to take a minute, but you put the gun down, we'll be all right.
Quite frankly, I don't know that anyone else from CIT could have done any better, and this officer has actually been trained and certified as a mental health peace officer himself.
Ramos was shot, but police have not said how many times or detailed the extent of his injuries. He's still in the hospital. Chief Noakes says the crisis intervention team typically is dealing with other mental health calls when incidents like this happen. He says having mental health certified officers is a priority.
One Saturday night, saying her son was upset over some money. Grimes found his mother's gun, beginning a several-hour standoff with police. Several times, officers ordered him to put it down. WFAA obtained this edited video from the Fort Worth PD. It can be hard to see from this drone video of the front door, but the department slowed the video down and highlighted what they say is the shadow of Grimes holding a gun. Police say Grimes walked outside and pointed the gun at officers, and that's when they shot him.
Sierra 1, sniper shot taken. Subject is on the front floor inside the front room.
The Tarrant County DA's office is reviewing the case right now. Taylor Grimes' mother told us she wishes her son had received the mental health assistance he needed.
Confrontation involving a Fort Worth police officer. From the officer's point of view, she was responding to a woman's call for help, saying she was suicidal. That woman picked up a knife and would not put it down. The officer shot her. The woman survived. Police have now charged her with aggravated assault against a public servant. That case is now under investigation. And a former
Agents shot 2 men at a Fort Worth apartment complex this evening during some sort of task force investigation. One of the men shot was taken to a hospital by an ATF agent. The other one escaped while injured, and he remains missing right now, tonight. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager is live in Fort Worth with the update and the search. Peyton.
Steve, for the past hour, investigators really have been combing through this upstairs apartment behind me, taking photos and dropping evidence markers. We know that 2 suspects on Randall Mill Road at the Rocco Apartments. ATF agents arrived on scene for an investigation where investigators say the agents were then put in danger and shots were fired. A viewer sent us a photo of law enforcement officers with their guns drawn. Investigators seemed to be centered around a vehicle in the parking lot with bullet holes in the driver's side door window. It's unclear at this time who this vehicle belongs to. Fort Worth police tell us ATF agents, part of a special task force, shot 2 male suspects. One of the suspects was taken to a hospital in one of the task force members' vehicle. His condition is unknown. A second
driver of a stolen truck she was in crashed during a police chase in Fort Worth. Police say the driver of the stolen truck was also a teenager. There was also an innocent victim of the crash, a college student who was driving to an internship he was supposed to be at that day. He says he's grateful he was able to walk away from that wreck. Fox 4's Davidson Tendry spoke to that driver and joins us live. David, an innocent victim of the crash, a college student who was driving to an internship he was supposed to be at that day. He says he's grateful he was able to walk away from that wreck. Fox 4's Davidson Tendry spoke to that driver and joins us live. David.
And the 15-year-old girl was one of 3 people ejected from that stolen truck. Police have not exactly released any sort of information as to what the relationships are between those 3 people in that stolen truck, but tonight we are learning a bit more information about that.
Smith, I know you're hurting today as well. You called police as we ask good neighbors to do. You were being that wonderful neighbor, the one that we all want next door to us. The type of person who does what's right in Fort Worth. Atiana's death has left you totally shaken and your sense of security and trust in law enforcement jeopardized. And I'm sorry. To Atiana's nephew, who witnessed the unspeakable loss, sorry doesn't cut it. The entire city needs to surround this young man with prayers, support, and anything that his family needs. Lastly, the images released showing the gun inside Miss Jefferson's home. The gun is irrelevant. She was in her own home, caring for an 8-year-old nephew. Atiana was a victim. She was taken from her family in circumstances that are truly unthinkable. I'm listening and hearing our community, my home. There's heartbreak. But healing and renewal of trust will come. It'll take a significant amount of work from all of us, and it must be done day by day, a step at a time, action by action, and it won't stop until we have justice and closure for Atiana's family, to rebuild a sense of trust for the community and with our police department. Mere words are not enough. We are taking immediate action. You will hear from the chief and city manager in a few moments. City leadership has set in place motions to bring a third-party panel of national experts to review this department. City Manager Cook will have more specifics for you in a minute. I would say, act justly, love mercy, walk humbly. Those words from scriptures are short and poignant on a day like today. Our community is mourning and hurting. Everyone expects justice, no matter how you define justice. This council, this city, and this police department will live humbly and provide the justice. Justice is critical here. We know we cannot bring back this young woman who was taken all too soon. But this is a pivotal moment for a city that will and can come together, and we will take actions swiftly and with transparency. Thank you all for caring. Let's wrap this family in love and prayers. Chief Krause.
Aaron York deemed guilty of the offense of manslaughter as signed by the presiding juror. Does either side desire a...
They need to take it further. Don't let them sweep this under the rug and give him what they want him to have. No, take it to the White House. If you have to fight, if you have to march, take it to the White House.
Right now at 4:30, more on that breaking news. Former Fort Worth police officer Aaron Dean is now locked up in the Tarrant County Jail. This is coming more than 3 years after a jury says he shot and killed a Tatiana Jefferson in her own home. Thank you for staying with us into the second half hour of WFAA News at 4. I'm Jason Whiteley in for Jason Wheeler. That was Tatiana Jefferson's family there just a moment ago. Immediately after, the jury found Aaron Dean guilty of manslaughter. This is Dean's new mugshot that came in just about 10-15 minutes ago or so. He is now in the Lon Evans Correction Center there in Fort Worth. Let's bring in my colleague, investigative reporter Tanya Iser. Tanya, you've been through a lot of these trials. You could
tell you how it was and how it is. We are not going to sugarcoat this.
A new 97-page report spanning 3 years outlines issues in Fort Worth's police department, from improper use of force to lack of accountability.
I cannot stand what we see. It's alarming.
The city asked policing experts to review the department after the death of a Tatiana Jefferson.
Put your hands up! Show me your hands!
They found officers often started interactions with profane and aggressive language and a disturbing pattern of use of force against people who weren't a threat.
To read that on paper in black and white, it is mind-boggling.
City Councilman Chris Nettles said the report should lead to new policies and better accountability, which it mentions is lacking. Managers were discouraged from disciplining officers unless there had been a complaint or a public outcry.
We need to have a strict policy. If you break the rules in the police department, you're gone.
The report mentions recent policies and improvements like fewer no-knock warrants, which weren't legal in some cases and even used as de facto training.
We're not acting in the way we should in some manners.
Police Chief Neil Noakes says the needed culture change will take time.
I, as the chief, and we as a department, know we must do better.
In one instance, a man was tased 15 times while attempting to comply with an arrest. In another, a man was punched in the face while handcuffed and not resisting, a practice that's not banned by policy.
They're not uniform followed, and so that means that on a daily basis, they kind of just call their own shots.
The report comes with recommendations on nearly every aspect of the department, from diversity to body camera use.
I'm going to be advocating that we touch every aspect of this report until we get it all done.
In Fort Worth, I'm William Joy.
Who says she was raped near school. The detective was fired last summer, but much of the information only came to light this week after Fox 4 News started asking questions. Fox 4's Lori Brown at the police department with the story. Lori.
Steve, the girl and her mother are frustrated because they believe the system set up to protect children has continued to fail them, even after a detective was fired for botching child abuse investigations.
An Arlington Heights student went to social media for help after she felt her cries for help to her school and police had fallen on deaf ears. We're not showing her face because she is the victim of an alleged sex crime.
I was raped on Wednesday, December 2nd, 2015. I told the school thinking they'd help me.
She was 15 years old at the time and says the attack happened near campus. Feeling ashamed and guilty, she did not tell her parents and waited 3 months to report the incident to the school, after hearing from friends that her alleged attacker did the same thing to other girls. The school filed its report with police, but we've learned the detective did nothing with it from there. Police say Dennis Hutchins was fired last summer for mishandling multiple child abuse cases. Did the police department drop the ball with this girl's case?
We have discovered that there were several cases where the detective that it was assigned to had dropped the ball. We've done our due diligence to go back through all of the cases that we believe.
Fort Worth police officers, they have been fired. This is now nearly 6 months after a man died in police custody. Thanks for being with us. I'm Doug Dunbar.
And I'm Gilma Avalos. Police said the man had complained that he needed help, but officers didn't get it for him until it was too late. Jason Allen is live tonight in East Fort Worth, where the incident happened back in July. Jason?
Gilman, at the time, back it was early August, right after that incident, we reported that a man who said he was a witness to everything that happened down here said it didn't look like Christopher Lowe could even walk when officers handcuffed him and put him in the back of a police car. Tonight, the department says those officers are out of a job and still facing a criminal review of what happened.
It was a call about a prowler police answered July 26th, possibly trying to break into cars or a home on Griggs Avenue in East Fort Worth. Police said they found 55-year-old Christopher Lowe complaining he needed medical help, but officers handcuffed him and put him into a police car. It wasn't until they were done investigating at the scene, they went back to the car and found Lowe unresponsive. An hour later, he died from an accidental cocaine overdose. Tuesday, police said 5 officers, only identified as T. Stevens, D. Pritzker, C. Golden, H. Fellhauer, and M. Miller, were all fired. In a statement, the department wrote the actions taken by the officers involved in this incident are not in accordance with the values of the Fort Worth Police Department or the standards that the citizens of Fort Worth have for their police department. In the days after the incident, a local pastor had questioned the way police handled it. Today, another local pastor, Kiev Tatum, posted, "I commend the City of Fort Worth Police Department's discipline of these police officers. We now ask District Attorney Sharon Wilson to take this matter before the grand jury to seek indictments."
Right now, the Fort Worth officer who shot a man 2 years ago who was holding a barbecue fork has just been fired. Chief Joel Fitzgerald made the decision to let Courtney Johnson go today. Just last month, aggravated assault charges against Johnson were dismissed after a mistrial. Soon after, Chief Fitzgerald started an internal discipline review. He said Johnson made the wrong decision and firing him was appropriate. The firing is effective immediately. Johnson can appeal that decision, but no word at this time if he will.
Of a Fort Worth police officer's actions. Riders from that group edited and posted this video online. They say the officer fired pepper spray at them on I-20. We talked today to riders in that group and people in the red pickup the officer had pulled over.
But he is here over what he said about this.
I'm just trying to figure out what's he doing.
3 years ago, Henry Newson, then 20, in the lobby at Harris Methodist Hospital after being released, trying to call his parent to pick him up.
Just picking me up from here.
A security guard approaches, and Officer Romer, who was off duty but working security, steps in. Their conversation escalates, and then this. Romer is charged with official oppression, but he is in criminal court today because prosecutors say he lied.
Deceit, dishonesty, and deception.
They say in front of a grand jury he testified he told Newson he was under arrest before he hit him. But prosecutors say that was a cover-up, and the body cam tells a different story.
We have it right there on the camera. The grand jury testimony was false.
Today, his defense declined to make an opening statement. Romer also faces a civil suit, arguing this was racially motivated. Prosecutors say Romer's real reason to arrest Newson was to protect himself.
I'm not gonna let you go, because I'll get in trouble.
He remains on restricted duty with Fort Worth Police pending the outcome of the trial.
I did not expect to get attacked by a cop.
An officer now face to face with the law. In Fort Worth, I'm Bradley Blackburn.
What hospital it is? All that took for me to say is, yes, my mother knows what hospital it is, and now he wants to say, no, I want you to tell me what hospital it is. No, I'm not obligated. I'm not obligated to tell you nothing.
Okay, I'm just asking a question. Okay, you're right. I'm asking you what hospital this is.
Read it. Freedom of speech.
Get off the phone. Shut up. Get off the
All
phone.
right, here you go.
Get off the phone. Let's go.
Here you go.
Come on. Let's go.
What do you mean?
I was just trying to be nice to you.
I know.
Thank you.
Hey, tell my father you touched me, dog. Bro, that's wrong. Oh, you fucking crazy.
Get down. Get down. Get down.
Son, you just told me my face.
Hey, just get down.
Give me your fucking hands.
Give me your hands.
Keep your hands.
Give me your hands. Just give him the hand. Give him the hand. Yeah, cuffs. Yeah. Watch out.
I'm talking about one, dog. You put me in my face 4 times, dog.
Yeah, I think you hit you some more.
They touch you.
Get the other hand.
Oh,
Give me the other hand. All we asking is the other hand. Give me the hand.
It's funny, dog. All y'all heard somebody recording this. You stole me in my face for no reason, dog.
Yeah.
I'm suing y'all niggas. We're alive. We gonna have a verbal conversation. All right. Like we was having a birthday.
Why are you here?
Like, get on my face, dog. Dog, get off my face. I'm getting it right. Dog, just came to the hospital, dog. Get off me. Stop.
Hey, tighten it.
Get off of me, man.
Hey, he's bleeding.
What
Watch
are
out.
y'all doing, dog? Get off of me. Hey, dog, I swear to God, man.
Hey, watch out.
I'm suing against you, dog.
Is that how he's talking? That's how he's talking to me whenever I got here.
Okay.
Romer came here, still acting up, and then Romer.
You asked him to leave.
He's still refusing to leave after you asked him and everything. Well, he said someone was picking him up. I was like, what hospital is this? He wouldn't even answer the hospital. His dad was on. I was like,
talking to your friend.
so I was like, what hospital is this? Wouldn't answer it. And then he told that, I don't need to talk to y'all. I was going to tell you that they're picking me up. And I said, what hospital is this?
You punched me in my face.
And then, so,
You punched me in my face. Now you want to ask me
Romer finally got tired and said, hey, get off property, and then he was resisting.
Okay. No, I'm not telling you nothing. You're under arrest. What's your name? Nothing, man.
I think his dad said it was 20.
I'm fixing to put another charge on you.
I don't have any charges. Let him
You're under arrest for resisting.
I did not resist from you. You punched me in my
Did you already
face.
tighten it?
Nah, he's not letting me do it.
Punch me in my damn face, dog. That's